What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Montana Method podcast one more time. As always, your host, Nelson Rodriguez Jr., author of the Montana Method. Today, I have a very special guest, top-ranked podcaster, motivational speaker, Albanian phenom of New York, Bek Lover.
I've been out here hustling all my life. Every day we get into it. Really out here in these streets. That's day and night. Like there's nothing to it. When I was going through it, dog, I never got your call. I never asked for nothing, no. But now I want it all. I promise I'ma do it. Came from rags to riches. Rags to riches. Came from rags to riches. Rags to riches. Came from rags.
What's going on, man? What's going on?
How you doing?
Hanging in there, trying to survive in what seems to be a rapidly developing dystopia that we live in.
Oh, yeah. Today, talking about the world of today is opening up a hell of a can of worms, and I'm happy to open that can of worms on today's show with you.
Let's do it.
So for people who have been living on another friggin' planet, tell them a little bit about you.
First generation American. My family came here to escape communism. I guess the word escape is the correct word, even though technically my family fought against them with everything they had. And a lot of them were thrown in prison and camps. And my grandfather was fortunate enough to get out, ordered by his father to escape because they were fighting against the communist regime in Albania. And I guess my great-grandfather wanted to make sure somebody from the family got out and survived it. He ended up in a 28-year, or even longer than that, I think, about 28 years in a gulag-type prison during the Hoxha. Enver Hoxha was his name. One of the worst dictators to ever live. And my grandfather, slowly made it here to the U.S. through many different hula hoops and hurdles he had to jump through while having a family, 5 kids, didn't speak the language, ended up in Italy through Amnesty International and was granted political asylum. I'm a political, you Cuban, a political prisoner
from Cuba.
And I want my human rights.
Now, like Jimmy Carter, the president said.
You're Cuban, yes?
Yeah. Something I can definitely relate to everything you just said. The Cuban people have suffered pretty similar stories to what the Albanians have suffered. Miami is basically the capital of anti-communism in the United States. If I would argue so. I mean,
I got the Russian boots, man. I got octopus coming out of my ears, man.
That's good. That's really good.
Do you like that, huh? They tell you all the time what to eat, what to drink, huh?
What to feel.
Like a sheep, huh?
You want to be like a sheep? Yeah, man.
Send this bastard to Freedom Town. Well, I always tell my Cubans that, the Albanians are basically the Cubans of Europe. When the regime took over, a lot of the Albanians that were able to get out or fought against the communists ended up going on boats to Italy. So kind of like Italy was our Florida. And when communism collapsed, and I believe it was 90 or 91, many Albanians, there's very famous pictures. If you type online, you'll see a boat literally where there's not 1 inch. And everyone's on the boat trying to get across the Adriatic Sea to Italy to get out of what was a giant prison for 20, 30, 40 years where no one could come in the country or leave the country. And not to downplay the Cuban situation, because my heart aches for the Cuban people. But the Albanian version of communism, the only one that even comes close to it, would be North Korea today. You wouldn't have had people flying in JetBlue, okay? And I'm not playing down like how bad it is there, because you say the wrong thing over there, you disappear. They just come and take you in. So those things are the same, but it is a little bit looser compared to what the Albanian people went through during that time period. I mean, it was true, total, and if you read the history, it'll say it, the most isolated country on the face of the planet. No one was allowed in. No one was allowed out. I mean, I've met Russians fishing in Sheepshead Bay, Brooklyn. We were on the boat and, just sharing stories, about where our families come from. And they were like, some of them, were in the Soviet Union. They were like, listen, we would drop supplies on the coast of Albania, because this dictator seemed to jump around. At one time he was with the Russians, then one time he was with the Chinese. But they would just drop off supplies literally on the dock and leave. They were not allowed to even get off the boat. So there was like, even we were like, wow, this place is like very closed, And I think what a lot of people don't realize is that when you've had people indoctrinated for so long and you have a type of society that exists in that fashion, even when it collapses, it takes generations to try to repair the psyche and the mentality of the people. And the effects of that are still felt even to today. So it's a darkness that many people don't understand. I feel Americans don't understand. And I feel that, they're wearing Che Guevara shirts. I see them all over. This guy was a mass murderer, like you're wearing, and you think it's cool. I mean, it is a cool picture. He's got the beret. He looks like a cool guy, but study the guy's life. And how did he end up dead? What happened to him?
Exactly.
Do you know what happened to him?
He was slaughtered like a pig, and deservedly so, in my opinion. But hey, who am I?
And by his own people.
Yeah. Fidel took out all his opposition. He did the same with. I'm not sure if you're semi-familiar with Cuban history, but there was three guys. It was Che, Fidel, and this guy named Camilo. And Camilo was actually the most popular of the three of them. And he actually was leaning more towards what the people wanted. And Fidel, took him out. The official story was that he disappeared in a plane crash. But, everybody knew that Fidel basically was taking out his opposition. You know what I mean?
This is what people don't realize. This is what they do. Same thing in Albania. There's videos of the guy. They put him on trial. He's begging the dictator, I would never do this to you, Shoko and there, my friend, I would never. And then they firing squad, bro. So it's Kim Jong-un. Same thing. His own family members, bro. So, it's funny that people want to propagate that system can never work. It has never worked. It will never work. It will work for the top, not even 0.5%, top 0.1%. And the rest are literally slaves. So when you wear a Che Guevara shirt, basically when I see you, I say, what a fucking moron you are. You know nothing about life. You want to know about that type of life and that society? Go talk to people from places like the Soviet Union when they lived. They no longer exist. From Albania, from North Korea, from Cuba. Because you look like a fucking moron when you're wearing that shirt. You're showing me that you're a complete fucking moron. And I bet you most of the people that wear those shirts have never even left the U.S., bro. Go visit a communist country. Come back and you will kiss the fucking soil beneath your feet. And you will say, America, I'm sorry I bashed you. I know you're not perfect. There's only God is perfect. But compared to what's out there, I love you. And I'm sorry if I ever disrespected you. Because you know what? When I left as a child and I visited socialist countries, they weren't even fully communist. Socialist. Like the former Yugoslavia. And when I got back to the U.S., I was like, my God, how lucky we are. I was so happy to get off the plane and see the American flag. And the customs officer would say, welcome home. And I was like, man, how lucky I am. And to see our nation where it is today, in this self-bashing state, where the powers that be got us at each other's throats over what the fuck we do in our bedroom, which shouldn't even be a public discussion anymore at this point. Everyone's got their rights, man. You got the right to get married. You can pay taxes. You can be a functioning unit. I don't care what you do in your bedroom, man. Leave me and my family out of it. People have a right to their lifestyle. It's a pursuit of happiness. It's the American dream, right? Nothing's perfect. It took us a long time to get where we are, but it seems like we're going in a direction that's like everyone's going to go down. So it went from we all fought to get everyone equal to we're going to push this thing to the brink, destroy the entire nation, and everybody's going to lose their rights, is the way I feel is going to happen unless we have some major conversations. We protect freedom of speech, which is in critical condition, because we live in a society where you must understand free speech is very important in social media, because social media has become the public forum, and it can influence opinion, and it can influence elections, and it can influence the heart and minds. It's a very powerful tool. So for people to be silenced on social media, I understand they're private corporations. There needs to be a real conversation about protecting freedom of speech on social media, period. And if there's any type of manipulation with algorithms and suppression, you have a former president, whether you like the guy or not, and I'm not a big fan, but for a lot of reasons. But I don't like any of the last fucking 10 presidents we've had. The last president I actually think I liked was JFK. Ronald Reagan, in essence. Well, the guy gave his life to tell us the truth. Go listen to what he said. They operate in the cover of darkness. I mean, the guy literally died to warn the American people. I love a lot of the discussions he's having are they're not a common discussion. He's talking about everything that's on the back burner that half the country is still angry about. You lost your family to a sickness that more and more is pretty much evident did not happen by accident, wasn't naturally occurring. And you're more worried about what someone's doing in their bedroom instead of finding out why your family died. The people we lost during the pandemic have a right for justice. If this thing was released, whether on purpose or by accident, regardless, that's why you have manslaughter. I didn't mean to kill the guy, but it happened, right? Someone needs to pay the price. If it was a lab that let it out, you had millions of people lose their lives. If there was treatments that could have saved lives, but certain institutions and people that were corrupted prevented those debates from happening, where doctors from Harvard and all over the world had different opinions of what should be done, and their voices were silenced. One of the dangers of censorship, information that could have saved your family's life over the last few years. And you're not angry and you're not demanding answers. If you have lost someone during the pandemic and you've just like, I guess that's it, and you're not demanding answers and you're not protesting and trying to find out what happened to your family, why are they dead? I'm sorry, I guess you never loved your family. Because whether it happened from a sickness or you found someone in their house executed, you wouldn't just leave the crime scene. You'd call detectives, let's look. There's enough evidence to show that something really malicious probably happened here. And you lost your mother, you lost your wife, you lost your brother, you lost your uncle, you lost your next door neighbor. They don't have a voice no more. And you're more worried about how many fucking slam dunks LeBron James had. Your family got possibly killed from a bioweapon that was developed in a lab, and you don't want answers? Shame on you. You don't have a right to even sit at the same table as me. The dead deserve justice. The dead deserve answers. And we are the ones that are alive that have to demand an investigation, a public debate, Fauci on the stand, the best experts in the world, senators, congressmen, we want fucking answers. Otherwise, we're not in a democracy anymore. We're in a dystopia, and that's what it feels like. I don't feel like I'm living in the US anymore. I feel like I live in a dystopia. And this is not about right or left, because I hate them both. I'm not a Republican or a Democrat. I'm a human being who believes everyone has a right to be equal. who everyone has a right to have a voice, who everyone has a right to do in this country, which promises the pursuit of happiness, so long as I don't hurt you, we all have the same rights. It wasn't always the case, but we've come a long way. And if this nation should perish, I promise you, humanity will never see the rise in the quality of life that it's had over the last 100 years ever again.
It's sad because you see people from all over the world come here. You know, there's no Japanese dream, there's no French dream, there's no Russian dream, there's no Indian dream. It's the American dream. And you say that for a reason, because this is a country where for generations and generations, 1 million people a year come here to look for a better life, whether they're coming from India, whether they're coming from Pakistan, whether they're coming from wherever. And I think it's gotten to the point where the people in this country have had so much freedom for so long that they've become weak. And they get so focused on things that don't even matter anymore, instead of focusing on the one thing that does matter, that it's you were born with a freedom that most people literally risk their lives for. I'll give you a great example. My uncle died at sea. He hopped on a boat trying to get here. Not a boat, actually. He hopped on a piece of wood on a raft
From
to
Cuba.
try to get to the United States. Yeah, from Cuba. He was trying to get to Florida, and he died. He got lost at sea. Nobody ever saw him again. And it's that things like that are happening in every country. Have you heard of a young lady by the name of Yeonmi Park?
She was on my show.
Wow, amazing. Her story, the first time I heard her story, and I didn't even know what to say, because
She was trafficked.
yeah,
She was
It's
caught on
wild.
the border trying to escape North Korea into China. Then she was
she was sold
into
into
slavery
in China. Yeah, it's nuts.
and went through hell. Then her own people treated her like shit. They thought she was a foreign agent. And she said, no one treated me and no one gave me the chance that America gave me.
Mm.
And
Insane.
my grandfather came to America, may he rest in peace, to the Bronx, New York, during a very volatile time. There was a lot of racial tension back then. There was a lot going on in the Bronx. So my grandfather came to the Bronx, New York at a very volatile time. The Bronx was on fire. You had tension between the various ethnic groups at that time, between African Americans, Italians, Irish, Jewish, the Puerto Ricans. And the Bronx literally turned into a war zone.
Mm.
And the demographics changed dramatically during those years. But in any event, he came to the Bronx, New York, with not a lick of English, no college education, no high school education, refugee from a war, families overseas, and he doesn't even know what condition, doesn't know if they're alive or dead. He's got 5 children that he's got to take care of. And he died a millionaire, brother. He died a multi-millionaire.
Wow.
Now you tell me how many countries in the world, and there's a few you could do it, a few, but how many countries can you go, you don't know nothing, you don't know the language, you have children, you start from literally sub-zero, in debt, and you can become a millionaire. You understand?
Yeah.
And people want to take this place and destroy it. Now, if you're one of the ungrateful, because there's many ungrateful people that live in this country, you know, and I understand life can beat you up and things can happen, but we've allowed for too long our country to be poached by foreign powers, by people within who do not put America before themselves. A leader is someone who puts the people that they're in charge of before themselves. That's my definition of a leader. I don't know of one on the earth. That to me is a true leader. Someone that the people choose. He doesn't even have to run for election because he's such a genuine person, such an honest person, he or she, that from their character alone, the people say, no, this is the one that should be in. Not because they can talk nice and the infomercials, and no, like they have this track record of being honorable. Politics in our country is corrupt from the lowest levels. From the local town that you live in that does rezoning for their friends, but not for you. They give contracts to their construction buddies, envelopes under the table, and we can sit here and act like this doesn't happen. It happens all day in America, man.
Yep.
It's starting in our towns. We don't even pay attention to the corruption in our towns. How are we going to save the country? So the towns are corrupt. The cities are corrupt. The states are filthy. And the country is decaying. We got gangrene and there ain't much left, brother, because you got to cut it out. And that's why corruption's illegal. And it should be illegal. When you rig a bid. Because the person that deserved it, the hard work in a true free market, doesn't get rigged. You got monopolies that used to be broken up. They're not broken up. You got people getting information and using it to their advantage when that's illegal in investing, Wall Street. And I can go on and on and on and on. And our greed, and I guess this is the bad side of capitalism, right? There's everything has yin and yang, right? And everything has good and bad. Oh, yeah. So, you know, a true free market has some regulation, but, you know, it's to protect the ethics of the market. So we live kind of where Pac-Man, everything got gobbled up. Now you have these super conglomerates. They got smarter and said, well, fuck the US. We're gonna go over the world. And these countries, and they operate in multiple multinational corporations. And they are in many ways more powerful than countries themselves because they're autonomous. They don't have to answer to the UN. They have billions and billions of dollars, right? There's companies that have bigger GDPs than 100% than Cuba and Albania.
Yeah.
Right? So technically, financially, they're more powerful than a country, right? So they can sway the people that run these countries, these organizations. They can push agendas. They can push what we call color revolutions for people that don't understand what that is, where you influence public opinion very subtly over a short span of time. You change the way they think, or what we call psychological warfare. We live in that time. People think that World War III was going to start out with bangs. No, it's the mind and the soul.
The mind, psychological warfare, 100%.
But go ahead, please chat a little bit because I'm hogging your mic up here.
No, hey, I love it. Our war is a spiritual war at this point. I'm convinced of that 100%. It's not. We're out of the age of iron, and we're into the age of the spirit. And unless there's an awakening, which I think is happening, I think it really is. People are starting to realize there's more than what they've been told. There's more than what they were aware of, especially over the last 3 years, right? You've had people really wake up and understand that they're being controlled. They're being manipulated. And it's not so much that they didn't know before. It's that they didn't want to know, right? Because there's a difference between me being ignorant of something and me just choosing not to know something, right? I think there's a big difference. When you really don't know something, it's kind of not your fault. But when you choose not to look into something and not research and do your homework, and at that point, you're just denying what's already there. You're in denial. And that's where the planet has been for a really long time. I think that humanity is capable of rebounding. Are we going to do it? I don't know. It's going to take a lot of unity, which you and I both know is not happening, especially within this country. It's going to take a lot of work and effort that I don't know if humans are willing to put in anymore, to be honest, because the laziness and the neglect and the we're all one, man. It's one human race, and people don't want to acknowledge that. People just want to do what's good for them and be selfish. And that's why the government has become what it's come. It's become this big, giant machine of corruption and how much money can I get for myself? And you have all these people just destroying a whole country, which is the symbol of freedom for the planet. You know, whenever there's a struggle for freedom in any country, American flag, Cuba, there was a protest 2 years ago, American flag, Korea, American flag. There's
Hong Kong, right
flag.
before the virus hit. It looked like a revolution that was beginning, and all of a sudden this virus came out of nowhere. People don't pay attention, man. They see little tiles, but they don't see the whole mosaic. You know?
Yeah. There's a saying I live by: don't major in minor things. Don't focus on the little insignificant pebbles in your path. Focus on the path itself. Because through focusing on the path is how you get to the destination you're going through, not focusing on the little obstacles on the way. And that's what the powers that be have become a master of. They become a master of distracting us with all this little, there's a
It's the
submarine.
politicians, man. It's the bankers.
They're the ones that want to make coquelillo, man.
They're the corrupt one.
Right?
You know, I've met every cast member of the Scarface
From the movie?
film.
Oh,
Yeah,
man.
except
That's awesome.
except for Frank, and he passed
Okay.
away, so that won't happen. And the guy that played the cop. You can't shoot a cop. Whoever says
Bernstein.
you was one. Here's your first class ticket to the resurrection.
So long, Mel.
But yeah, I met Al Pacino, whose best friend was Albanian. Luke
That's awesome.
Tomai. Shout out to Luke Tomai. And I got to meet Al Pacino in 2002. And what a gentleman he was. And he was doing a benefit at my college for after 9/11 to try to raise money for downtown. And I met the actor who played Manolo and Chichi. Angel is his name, I believe. Salazar was the actor, if I'm not mistaken, that played Chichi. Get the yayo. I met them at the Russian Samovar with my good friend Yasha, the owner of the Russian Samovar on 52nd Street. And that was a fun night. So, you know, I didn't recognize him at first because, you know, they aged a little bit compared to how they looked in the movie. But Manolo still looks like Manolo.
Right?
I always forget his name.
His
the
name
actor.
originally was Rocky Echevarria, but then later he changed it to Stephen Bauer.
Stephen Bauer.
Yeah, Stephen Bauer.
He's a
Yeah.
great actor. Great actor.
There's going to be a big event that Al Pacino is going to be at here in the Fontainebleau in December. It's the 40th anniversary of Scarface. And then he's going to be coming down. They're probably going to do like Q&A, that stuff. So I'm thinking of checking it out. It'd definitely be something special. Get some footage, me at the event, you know, put it on YouTube, all that kind of stuff. So
Try to get him holding that book.
yeah, holding the book and signing it. That'd be great, right? That'd be amazing. That film is special to me in many ways. There's not a lot of portrayals of Cuban Americans in film, or Cubans in general in film. So, and I have a lot of admiration for Al because he did such a great job portraying us. He really did.
I mean, did you think his accent was authentic?
100%.
Seriously?
Yeah, seriously. He got so good at imitating us that even a Cuban saw that movie and it was like, wow, he really is one of us. You know what I mean? Down to the little scenes where he spoke Spanish, it was very, very good, very good. And I will have my admiration forever for being able to pull that off. So yeah, and like I said, there's so few portrayals of us on screen that it's such a legendary way to portray a Cuban. It really is.
For me, I always found it hard seeing that movie, and just my experiences with Cubans have been nothing but just, honest to God, nothing but excellent. And I got a great love for the Cuban people. I really do. I live in an area that has a very big Cuban population, you know, over here on the Hudson River, facing New York. And I've always had such great experiences with the Cuban Americans. And I guess our commonality of, you know, our countries and what they've been through.
Yep.
And our families, but also just hardworking people, family-oriented people. And, you know, my people get a bad rap too. And they make a lot of bad movies about us. You know, we're always the bad guy and mobsters and drug dealers and all this shit. But that's not the reality of the Albanian people. That's a very small number, not even 1%. Like, we're talking about a few rotten apples, because the overwhelming majority of my people are extremely hardworking.
I would say
extremely,
yeah,
they are. And I'm telling you, as someone who has grown up in a very predominant Cuban area, and even in Miami when I visit, man, I get nothing but love, and the way they talk, and they're just down to earth, man. Hardworking, you know, Uber drivers, fucking restaurant owners, whatever they got to do, construct. They're just hardworking people, family oriented, and God believing for the most part. I see that they believe in God, and they're very vocal about a lot of the things that are going on right now, which I was very proud of them during the last few years. Not agreeing with a lot of the things that were done, locking us down. And so, I have a great love. And I've always said this, and I say it again. If anybody's going to save this country, it's going to be the sons of immigrants, first and second generation, who know of the darkness their families came from.
100%. Who
know how valuable this country is, not only to their benefit, but to the whole world. And it will be them who will heed the call to protect the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. I don't think it's going to be the fifth and sixth generation American. I don't think they realize what they have and what they're about to lose 100%. If they don't wake up.
My parents lost their home. I'm not losing mine. You know what I mean? That's I think something guys like you and me can kind of feel. It's
Albania to this day. Albania to this day. Communism collapsed 30 years ago. Till this day, there are land disputes because of what happened when communists took over. They took everyone's land, redistributed it, threw people off their family was on that land for generations.
Yep.
And even now with the corruption, they just take the land, even though you have the documents before communism took over, which should have been returned to anyone that has those documents, because that's not fair what happened. And it has continued to plague our nation even to this day. It's what's made it difficult to conduct business and feel good. So even now, the aftermath, 30 years later, has been catastrophic. Because that's what they did. They take over and throw you off your land. And if they didn't like you, like, oh, you're going to go live in this concentration camp too. So we'll have a good day. Here's your new house.
Cuba's been... It's been in kind of they're still under a communist dictatorship, but the Castros have slowly stepped into the shadows, and they put this puppet guy, this guy named Miguel Díaz-Canel. He's running Cuba, but not really. Castro's really running from the shadows. And I think what's going to happen is it's probably going to be similar to the Soviet Union, where it's going to fall apart because they can't sustain it anymore. And that guy's going to take the fall, and they're just going to disappear into the wind with all their money. That's just me. That's what I think is going to happen. I could be wrong, But at this point, there's not much sustaining Cuba anymore. All the Latin American countries, after 2 years ago when that protest hit and they saw the cops beating the shit out of people just for protesting, a lot of Latin American countries cut ties. They didn't want anything to do with Cuba. They still have China funding them a little bit and Russia in there somewhat, but eventually it's going to fall apart because no one can sustain it anymore. They just suck other people dry. They keep taking money from other countries and not paying it back. It's a virus. It really is. That way of thinking, that system, it's a virus. It's a blood-sucking virus that takes and takes and takes until nothing's left. You know what I mean? Kind of leaves the land.
For any young people that might be listening to your show, what they don't understand is you study so hard, you're so smart, you bust your ass in school. How would you feel if you were the one busting your ass the entire time? And you're earning A's, but they give everyone an A. That's fucking communism.
Yep.
It's not about how hard you worked, or if you were smarter or better or more. So how can something like that thrive? There has never been a greater lifting out of poverty. Technological advances, everything that came from the ingenuity and the freedom that America provided to the people that lived here. And again, I understand we had dark moments, and I understand we had some horrific things that happened in our past. My argument is what's better out there. Most people that complain have not been outside these borders, man. They don't realize what's out there. Instead of focusing on the negative, if people focused on the positive. I was born in the ghetto. I don't have to die in this ghetto. I could work 2 or 3 jobs. I can save my money and move out. There's always a way out, and people just don't. I don't want to hear it, man. I know people that lost everything, man. More than once in their lives. They lived in poverty. They lived in ghetto. It's a mindset. Do you want to rise up, or do you want to continue to let the environment you're in and the generational curse continue? Because someone needs to rise up and save that family.
110%. I couldn't agree more.
Coming from an oppressed people, coming from immigrants, coming from a war zone, coming from disaster, starting in the Bronx, which was a shithole, especially during that time period of my family. Well, now it's pretty decent. My grandfather could have made excuses. I don't speak the language. Woe is me. They threw all my family in jail. No, he put his head down like a fucking man. He put his head down and said, I got to take care of my family. And he busted his ass. And once he was strong, he helped others. And they lifted each other out of poverty. Today, Albanians own half the fucking Bronx. They came here with nothing. But it was the mindset of, we got to get through this. We can't give up.
Definitely.
If we stick together, and there will never be a better generation of my people than that generation. I've never seen that type of success anywhere else for our people because they had no choice also. So when they came, they really stuck together. They were a minority. There was no Albanians here. And there's something to be said about that. So, a lot of times you can have the crabs in a bucket mentality when you're an oppressed people. This is common in many societies that have had trauma and oppression, where they only focus on themselves and not the hive, right? The individual bee is not worried about the colony. So there is power when you can work together within your own community and do things. One of the communities that I love, besides obviously the Jewish American community, the greatest example of what it's like when you can stick together and work and do amazing things, right? With a small amount of people, 13 million people, but they have an enormous impact on the world, including social media, right?
Oh yeah.
Zuckerberg and right. But
Right.
the Korean American community, I'm very impressed with the way they work together, the way they collaborate. A lot of times it's through their churches and they help people get money and start businesses and they lend each other. So it's amazing what they do to each other to help each other. So there's something to be learned about that. Not mad about. I've never once looked at the Jewish community and be like, well, maybe we should learn something from them.
Learn something from them, 110%. Yeah.
There's something to be admired about that you can come back from catastrophe. Okay, almost being annihilated, chased out of every country in Europe, thrown into concentration camps and incinerated, and rise up again, unite, and take over a place and make it your country overnight. And have such an impact, right? So I admire, I've always told, and I have cousins that are, of Jewish descent. So it's something to be admired about how strong you can be when you stick together, man. And it's like the analogy of if I give you one stick, say, here, break it. You'll break it. One twig. But if I give you 100 twigs and I say, go ahead, break it, you're not breaking that.
No.
And this is where I think a lot of other communities, they miss the ball because it's me. And everyone's fighting for a scrap instead of what, let's put you on first, then you, and there's a methodical process where you all rise up together, right? A good tide raises all the boats. So
100%. Yeah. I have huge admiration for the Albanian community because what you guys did in the Northeast is very similar to what we did in Miami. It was a city that didn't have much before we came here, and we ran away from a dictatorship looking for freedom, and we built a city from nothing. You know what I mean? And Miami has become a capital of many things, and if it wasn't for us, it wouldn't be that. I'm very proud of what we've been able to accomplish in the city. And some people ask me why I stay here, because a lot of people have moved
because it's
here.
popping. That's why Miami's popping, bro. I want to go to 11.
Hey, whenever you come down here, make sure you call me.
Shout out to my man Red. Red, if you're watching this, he runs the door over there at 11.
That's awesome.
You ever been to 11?
Me personally, yeah, I've been there. I've been there a while back. I'm not heavy into clubs anymore, but I know that
Married?
that's huh?
You married?
No, not yet. Hopefully one day. Want to have kids, get married, that kind of thing,
How old are you?
I'm 30.
All right. You got a little time left.
Little time, yeah. So yeah, man. I know the club scene was definitely your territory up in New York, so that's I know you took over the promotion scene for quite some time.
Nightlife is a very dangerous environment to get used to if you don't have discipline.
Oh yeah.
I've seen a lot of people go down. I've seen a lot of people pass away. And if you don't control it, it will control you. But the nightlife can be a wonderful place. It can be this nonstop playground. It's like Never Land. You know, people go, "Oh, don't you feel weird that you're 40 years old?" No, I don't feel weird, bro. I feel great. I go out every night. I meet amazing people. I have friends literally all over the world. I can make a phone call anywhere I am on earth. I got somewhere to sleep if I need it, God forbid.
It's awesome.
I like my hotels, you know. I like my privacy, but I got an amazing network. I've made friends with some of the most amazing people in the world, celebrities, musicians, all walks of life, man. I've met some of the most brilliant people in the nightlife. I always tell people, you know, I don't drink. So if you stick to really just having some discipline, and if you're focused, the nightlife can be a great resource for you as long as you don't get pulled in. But it's very easy to get pulled in. You know, you got the opposite sex always looking their best. Because people don't go out to clubs looking like, you know, bums for the most part.
You're right.
They get dressed up, they look good, you know, especially the women, they always look phenomenal. So it's easy to get carried away in the excesses. But
For sure.
the benefits of it are that people have their hair down. It's easier to start conversations. It's people know that they're going to have to interact. Someone that's in there is probably in a social mood. You can develop great business contacts. You can develop all kinds of stuff, man. It's a really good place to build a network. And if you're going to the right places, you don't want to go to shitty places. You want to go, you know, you can go try to get into places that are very high end. Everyone in there is successful. You have places like Casa de Cipriani, right? It's like members only. It's all freaking, there's fucking billionaires in there. You're at the bar having a drink. Next thing you know, you're talking to a billionaire or a CEO of a tech company. So it's like also knowing where you're at and how to use that environment to your advantage, but also how to start conversations where you don't come off cheesy or as like a bloodsucker or a vampire. There's a way to have a conversation. There's a way to open a door. And there's a way to have a network. I think a lot of people don't have patience when they're networking.
Oof.
Instead of worrying about making the other person like them and vice versa, they, as soon as they start talking, well, what do you do? I do, and they go straight to business. And a lot of times when you go straight to business, people can sense it. They feel it. They're like, oh, this guy's a fucking shark or he's a bloodsucker, right?
Yeah,
I've always believed in taking, you know, you take your time when you get to know people.
Yeah.
Let them really get to see who you are. Let them, you know, fall for you, in love with you, you know. And you try to do a favor for them before you ever ask for one yourself.
Super important.
That's the best way to do it, man.
Definitely.
You know, I have a friend of mine who, you know, I'll be like, you know, why don't you? It's like, I hate asking for favors. He's like, I want to save that for when I really need something. Yeah. And I looked at it like it's a currency.
Yeah, definitely. The nightlife, networking in general, me personally, I've learned that it's not so much what you can get out of the other person. It's more forming a relationship, and you got to have a long-term vision for when you're networking and when you meet people. You're definitely right. The art of communication isn't something common nowadays. Most people.
No, it's not. It's lacking, actually. It's lacking. People don't really know how to have a productive conversation. You know, a conversation has structure, whether you realize it or not. And the most effective business people and the most effective salespeople, the most effective networkers are those that have structure when they speak. And they follow the same routine. The way they open up a conversation, the way they probably use the same jokes.
Right.
But they make it sound like it's the first time they've ever said it when they say it to you. They're very cunning and very clever when they speak. And they use their words like currency. They don't just waste their words. Because you can overspeak too. You can talk too much. Or what we say is go past the close. So when you're out there in the nightlife, you should talk to everybody. Because you'd be amazed at how many people are in that world that are like very successful. and how small that world is. It's like one big family. I know everybody in, nightlife. They all know me. Even if you're not in the business as much anymore, you kind of like earn this place where, there's just like a respect. It's like, even though he's not in the game no more, this guy was in the game for so long. It's like a family, man. There's a common courtesy. I could go to a club in Miami and say, hey, I've been in nightlife in New York 20 years. They'd be like, you know what? Hey, you come up to New York, anything you need, they'll open the rope, man. I can't tell you how many times I went to like the hottest place. My friend's like, how you gonna? I'm gonna get us in. Don't worry, because it's like a big fraternity. It's a big network, and we do reciprocate respect because it's just, everyone looks at us like we're fucking degenerates, but we're really not. We're business people. We're hustlers, and we live a different lifestyle, man. I personally don't drink, so
neither do I.
I don't do drugs. I did drink. I used to drink a lot, and I haven't drank in over 10 years. So it is what it is. You can either let the nightlife consume you, or you can use it to your advantage. There's no middle there.
Yeah. When you started talking about the art of conversation and structure, I remembered one of the 48 Laws of Power from Robert Greene's book. It said, be silent. Don't say more than is necessary. I think people fuck up conversations all the time by talking too much. They don't realize that there's moments.
I'm guilty of that.
But you have something to say. That's the difference. When you have something to say, talk. When you don't speak. It's like you said, pick your words and use them and be methodical in what you say.
When I was younger, I always thought in my mind, let me try to shine right now.
Mm-hmm.
So I felt like I have to say something. But what people don't realize when they're younger is that sometimes not saying anything is more powerful, because people always wonder, like, why is this guy so quiet? Why is he so reserved? And sometimes there's a power in being silent, and then they ask you questions, and then you can shine, because it means they actually want to know.
Right. 100%. There's always a mystery to being quiet, right? Or the mysterious one. People they always want to figure you out, and that book changed my life, man. Robert Greene's my favorite author. I've read all his books. He's at 48 Laws of Power, 33 Strategies of War, The Art of Seduction, all that stuff. Very, very practical books. It's
wait till my book comes out.
Hey,
Sell or Die.
I love
by
it.
Bek Lover.
I'll buy a copy. No worries. You gotta
I gotta get a
so I
copy.
can send you my book.
I gotta get a copy of your book, man. You were supposed to send me one a long time ago.
Yeah. I got you. Well, I'll send you one now.
So
this week.
What people don't know about me and you is that I used to work with your uncle.
That's right. Yeah, Christian told me. He told me. Yeah.
Shout out to Chris. I don't know if you want to
Godfather.
say his last name. You want to say his last name?
Christian Lopez. Yeah, he was on an episode last season. He's family. It's my.
Did he ever tell you about what I used to do on that sales floor?
A little bit, not too much. You can tell me what. Tell me.
I was a fucking cleaner, bro, not a closer. He'll tell you. Selling timeshare is not an easy thing to do, my friend.
No, but you can make some big money if you know what you're doing. That's for sure.
You want to be a big guy. You want to make the big bucks.
Let's see how tough you are. It's a bunch of Colombians.
I tell anyone that's in sales, if you can do 6 months in timeshare, even if you don't want to stay in that career, it will teach you a lot about sales. It will teach you a lot about the psychology of clients, and really the steps that they use are probably the most powerful ways to shift the mindset of an individual and to bend their will towards yours. It teaches you how to have thick skin and how to so many people, and when they go into sales, they're like, man, people just have this negative connotation, and they don't realize that everything in this life is a sale.
Oh yeah.
You reaching out to me, get on your show. I don't just go on anybody's show. And it's not to be arrogant, and I do go on shows that are not big, or I'm not saying yours is not. I'm just saying, like, I get reached out to all the time. And I do go on shows that are just starting out, because I remember what it was like to just start out. I wasn't always at the top of the podcast world. But to convince someone to come on your show in the beginning is not easy. Why should this big celebrity? Why should Carol Baskin come on my show? The whole world knew who she was. Why should Rachel Ray come on my show? So there's a power in, knowing how to communicate. But really, that's all sales is knowing how to communicate to the individual that you are trying to conduct business with.
Definitely. What I love about sales is you get paid in direct proportion to how you develop yourself. You know, if you have the right skills and you develop yourself in a way where you can communicate and you can understand other people and you can put these things together, you get paid big money. You know,
For me, sales and being in the nightlife hand in hand added so much to my experience and my character and developing a thick skin of not being scared to talk to people. I'll speak in front of 100,000 people. No problem. I won't even blink an eye, brother. I'll probably get a hard on is what I'll get. And, there's something about sales that, people need to go and do it. I don't care. 100%. It's so important, man. I mean, the fact it's not a college course
is crazy.
Is mind-boggling to me.
Yep.
Because really, college was a fucking joke. I'm gonna be real with you. I had straight A's. I can pull up my transcripts. Anybody want to challenge me? You want to look up in the National Honor Society, see if my name's there. I don't know if you can, but it's there. I was brilliant in high school. I got an academic scholarship to college. And I feel like what I learned, I went into sales immediately during college. I was 18 years old. I started in commercial leasing, which was very brutal in New York City. I got thrown out of every building in Midtown Manhattan, literally. I went door to door. And as much as I hated it at that time, and it was scary, man, I'm like, fuck, I'm going to go into these buildings. I got to try to ask people questions. They don't know me. I'm a stranger. And I got seconds before they called security. And they did. They used to throw me out all the time. I got thrown out of every fucking building. But once I realized all I have to do is figure out how to make this conversation keep going. And I didn't know how to do it at first, but I started through trial and error, develop, and it's a process, bro. And eventually you get numb and you don't care anymore what people think or what's going to happen because you're focused, you're motivated, and you want to get that money. And sales is a phenomenal way. Like if you're not in sales and you work in the corporate world, you're only going to make what they pay you and you're never going to make more. It doesn't matter how hard you work. Maybe they give you some bullshit bonus, but sales is where it's at, man. In any organization, that's where the money's at.
110%.
Unless you're one of the higher level executives. But other than that, sales is where it's at, bro. I used to make $500,000-600,000 a year, man. Which is phenomenal. Compared to when I worked in banking and I just had a salary, I was making $52,000 a year. I was making more money as a party thrower. So there is no right or wrong way as long as you're doing things that are ethical.
Right.
Stop listening to everyone else. Stop asking people their opinions. If I listened to my parents, I would have never left banking and I'd probably still be working there right now. And the most I ever would have made is $150,000 a year before tax. When I wanted to leave banking, my father was like, what are you doing? You can work your way up. I said, listen, I'm sitting here rotting all day, staring at the vault, wishing I could fucking go in there with a ski mask. And I'm miserable. And I went into commission only, which most people are terrified of.
Right.
And within 3 months, I brought home a check for $40,000. I would have had to fucking work 90% of the year to make that money. I made it in a month, and I was like, holy shit, man.
Now we're talking.
Yeah, and it was the beginning. So sales is the best place to become an entrepreneur.
Oh, yeah.
Because you're already living with, like, you only eat what you kill. And it gives you the emotions of up and down, because there's going to be bad months too in sales.
Oh, yeah.
And so you become a beast, or sometimes there's an economic downturn.
Right.
And to have that type of thick skin, what greater way to get prepared to be your own business? And you need to learn how to sell if you're ever going to be your own boss. So a lot of people go like, I want to own my own company. Well, until you learn how to sell, you're never going to be anything but someone else's worker. You must learn how to communicate. You must learn how to sell. You must go through the process. You will fall down. You will go through a lot of pain. There was a lot of dark moments in my life, but it was all fucking worth it.
150%.
And I wouldn't change any of it. And there was months I didn't eat because it was rough. And I learned how to budget, which is something you need to do as a business owner, right? So like, again, to go into sales is to change your life. And to learn how to sell is not only impacts how much money you're going to make, it's going to impact everything. The girl you want to try to ask out on a date. Most women are going to say no, just like a customer. Customers, anybody's trying to be sold anything, and they might even need the product. If a girl's single and you're trying to talk to her, she hears it every 5 seconds. If she's a good-looking woman, she hears a pitch every 5 fucking seconds. Hey, yo, mami, some guy whistling, someone's a little more creative, someone's good-looking, whatever the thing is. It's the same thing in business. I've always said, if someone knows how to talk to women, there's a good chance they're going to be a good salesperson. Because there's nothing harder to overcome an objection than to get a beautiful woman to come out to dinner with you. To take time out of her life to give you a shot. You might not even be her type. You might not even be good looking. And if you can convince that woman to come out to dinner with you, you got a gift, my friend. So if you're a player out there and you don't got money in your pocket, there's something you're doing wrong. You're a salesman.
Yep.
You just don't realize it.
100%. Yeah, I heard the definition of a sale a long time ago, and I think it's whenever someone buys into you as a person. It's not even so much a sale. It's so the definition is a transfer of conviction from one person to another. Transfer of conviction from a buyer to a seller. Transfer of conviction from a man to a woman. It's all
It's to bend someone's will. You're bending someone's will.
Yep, 100%. Yeah, I'm sure you've heard someone say like, "Oh, they just have it." You know, that it factor that's what that it is. You know what I mean? It's having that conviction, that confidence.
That's correct.
Sales changed my life. Me personally, I was in sales for a long time. I met Christian in sales when we.
So what do you do now?
Now I work in e-commerce. Yeah, I got approached by a gentleman who's founding an e-commerce company, and he needed someone like me to go in there and do a lot of different things for him. I have experience in a lot of different things, so I'm gonna go that route for now. I've worked for Cadillac. I've sold cars. I was in network marketing for a while. You name it. I've sold moving services. I've sold a lot of stuff.
Network marketing is another very difficult
super
industry to be in.
Oof. Very difficult.
A lot of hurdles, a lot of hula hoops. You know, it's kind of set up like a Ponzi a little bit. Not worse than, you know, what is that called? Multi-level marketing.
Right.
But again, still good professions to go into just to get that thick skin, to cut your teeth, to learn how to talk to people, to kind of get your feet on the ground when it comes to the sales game, you know?
Yeah, 100 and I couldn't agree more. I realized I was talking to it's funny you talk about tough skin. I was talking to a friend of mine yesterday. I spoke on the phone with her for 2 hours. I hadn't spoken to her in a while. We're great people. Sue, if you're watching, hi. She said something interesting where she said, I told her she should make a script about her life because her life she has an amazing story. And she says, I don't want to be judged. And I told her, Sue, you're going to get judged anyway. You're being judged right now, even before you write the script. So whether you do it or not, do it because you want to do it, not because other people are going to judge you. Who gives a shit? You know what I mean? So that tough skin is so important. Not caring about what people say or how people react to you or what people think. It's so important in life because people judge you anyway. People judge you whether you turn out to be a success or you end up a bum. So who cares? Just live your life. Do what you want to do. Do what makes you happy. Do what fulfills you. That's my philosophy.
Yeah, there's no second shot here.
Oh, yeah.
So listening to everyone else is the easiest way to live a depressing life.
Mm.
If you listen to everyone else, and you ask everyone else their opinion, what should I do? They don't see what you see. They don't feel what you feel. They don't think the way you think. They have different skill sets than you have. If your heart and your mind are restless to do something, your heart aches when you think about it.
Mm.
That's destiny calling you, man. I should have been doing what I'm doing now years ago. But I felt into that mold, do this, do that, listen to everyone, make everyone else happy but myself.
Mm.
And I neglected my gift. And I lost years of my life. You cannot get the time back. So if there's something you feel deep down inside you wish you did or want to do, you need to get up and start doing it. Even if it's the smallest step, the smallest drop in the bucket. You always wanted to open up a pie shop because you make an amazing apple pie. Maybe that's the gift that God gave you. There's a reason why you feel like that. There's a reason why you get that vision. You need to act upon it. And even if you don't hit, at least you can sleep knowing that you tried. Because not trying, 50 years from now, 30 years from now, you're going to regret it. I regret. There's, like people always say that common expression, I regret the things I didn't do a whole of a lot more than the things I did do that didn't work out. So if you got something, stop waiting for everything to be perfect. Nothing will ever be perfect. If you wait for a perfect start, if everybody that ever made it big waited for that perfect start, nothing would have ever been accomplished on this earth.
Definitely not.
Right? So you need to move slowly, even if, whatever you can do today to start, whether it's reading a book in that industry, to taking a course, to finding a mentor, to actually registering a corporation and going out there and trying. And even if you just go out and try and you fail, you're still going to learn something more than if you never did nothing. So in the end of the day, even you don't think I've lost businesses, brother. I had a general contracting company. I went in too early. I had the ability to sell, but I didn't know the operations aspect of it. And I got killed there. So even though I could close deals and I got a lot of jobs, by the time I was doing these jobs, I was losing money because I didn't have the expertise. I would have been better off finding a partner that knew the operation side, but he couldn't sell. I could have just sold. He does the jobs. We both make money. It takes me half the time, and I could have done another job. So there's always a way to get started. Know what your strengths are. If you can't do it all on your own, then find someone that complements what you're missing. There's always a way out there. The thing I'm noticing the older I get, I'm in my 40s now, is that there's so many ways to do things that we don't think of until it's too late. Or we learn through the process of elimination and hard times. So there's always a way to get something started. And owning something is better than owning nothing. So, some people are like, well, I don't want to open this company with anyone. And well, let me ask you a question. Would you rather own 100% of 100 grand or 50% of 500 grand? Because maybe your idea is going to be worth 500,000 a year. And yeah, you want it to be your baby and you own it all. But hey, if you get a lot more money than you're getting now, things are going to start moving in your favor. So there's always a way. You just know people need to change the way they look at things so the things that they look at can change. And I heard this quote once in the timeshare world from a guy that I used to work with, one of the best closers I've ever seen in my entire life. His name is Eric Maurice. This guy could walk onto a table and just completely shift the dynamic and completely encompass the clients with his charisma, with his skill, and his ability to communicate and make the clients feel his energy. This guy was just not normal, the way he could just shift a table in a second. The client could be in a bad mood. Their arms are crossed. They're very defensive. They can't wait to get off the table and get out of there. And this guy will walk in and make them forget they're even there. And there's something to be said about that. Sales is not the product. I've witnessed this over and over and again. It's not the product. It's the way you connect with the people that you're trying to do business with. If you can get them to talk about their life and you talk about your life and you warm up, as they say, and now they feel like they're with a friend and now they're listening, they're receiving. But if you can't get past those defenses, you have nothing to talk about.
Oh, yeah.
And so many people miss this very important step. They try to get straight to business. You can't always get to business until you open them up. You roll back the layers, the defense mechanisms, find out really kind of how they think. What kind of, are they analytical? Are they impulsive? Are they married, not married? Do they have kids? Like, all these things play a factor in how you should communicate to someone. And so many people don't get it. This is not a art that is left to chance. Sales is an art. It's a science. And it's a process every time. That's the same. Your close might be different, but the process to get to the closing sequence is always the same.
Right.
Once you've mastered it. It's like playing chess. They say this, I say that. They go this way, I go that way. They're this type of feeling today, I need to get them, and you start to become this master. You can just sense which way things are going, and you should, but that comes with time.
Exactly, yeah.
That comes with practice, and that comes with working on your craft and perfecting your presentation and adjusting it and tweaking it. And you're only going to hear no so many times and so many variations of it. So when I used to sell timeshare, you would hear the same type of no. I got to talk to my boss and, see if I can pull out money for my pension. We're about to sell a house. My kids are about to go to school. We're getting divorced. I'm fucking dying. I have cancer. Great. That's why you should buy, actually. That's actually why you should fucking buy this. You're going to die anyway. So, you're only going to hear so many variations of the word no.
Right.
And why they want. And then eventually you become a master on overcoming those objections. So the bottom line is, I don't care if you don't have a single day of experience in sales. Anybody can learn how to sell. Some of you may not be Michael Jordans in basketball, but you can learn how to play. You can shoot some hoops. You might not be the all-time scoring high, but you can still make some money.
Oh, yeah.
Spice up your life. Be more brave. And only good can come from that. Nothing bad can come from that.
Yep.
Anything else, buddy?
I tell people who ride the bench in sports still get paid millions, even though they're not the star player. You know what I mean?
There you go.
So,
it's true.
Definitely. My brother, this has been phenomenal. I appreciate you taking time out of your day to come to my show. This has been awesome. Thank you for coming by. I usually wrap up with asking my guests 3 questions. So, question number 1, what inspires you?
What inspires me is to see people saving their own lives, bro. It's become kind of my mission now in life. I've seen the impact that I've had on so many people. I get their messages, I get their emails, I get their DMs, and to just get that feedback that, hey, I decided to do this because of you, or I tried this and it worked. It's such an amazing feeling. So what's really inspiring me these days is realizing that I do have a voice that has influence, and trying to use it for the right reasons, not the wrong ones.
There's something to be said when you can impact other people's lives, right?
Well, I mean, when I started my podcast, my intention, and I believe you have to have intention in everything you do, right? So why are you doing something? I think a lot of people just go through the motions in life and they don't stop and think, why am I actually doing this?
Oh, yeah.
I think if you stop and ask, why am I doing it for me, or because this is what my parents thought would be best for me? Am I doing this because it's the right move, or it's going to just make me a little bit more money than I'm making now? And they don't think 10 years from now, are they going to be happy? So I think you need to know what your intention is, or what people say is what your why is. But the why you do something is more for like when something's really difficult and you're about to start on that adventure.
Right.
What's going to get you through the dark times? But intention is a little bit different. So when I started my podcast, my intention was, if I could save a single life, it would be worth it. And that was my challenge. I want to save one life. And I don't think it's me in essence, it's God, right? I believe God uses all of us in his own ways.
Right.
But I had I had someone DM me and say, I didn't kill myself because of your show.
Wow.
And that was amazing to me. It blew my mind away. I said, I can't stop my work. I have people inspire me every day. I love your little messages. And what people don't realize about my content on Instagram and on TikTok is that a lot of times, if there's such emotion there, they go, your videos are very powerful because they're real. Because that day I was probably having a really bad day. And when I was speaking what you thought I was speaking to you, I was literally looking in the mirror and I was speaking to myself, reminding myself of what's important. Because I was having a bad day. And you became a co-benefactor because I decided to publish that on my content, on my wall. But I'm human just like you. Some people think, I'm like, my friend, I'm not God. I'm not perfect. I've made many mistakes. Your uncle knows how crazy I was back in those days. But he'll also tell you, Bek Lover never took shit from anybody. Bek Lover walked away from a $500,000 a year job because he had principles. And he doesn't, all I have is my word and my balls. I don't break it for no one. And I walked away. I could have stayed there. I was one of the top performers. I stepped out of a management role and I resigned. Out of principle.
Not many people would have done that.
No, my own family's like, what are you doing? Why are you walking away from all that money? I said, because I can't be who I am. I can't be who I am. I have to bend my ethics. I have to swallow shit that I shouldn't be swallowing. When I helped build an organization to the point where it did $128 million in a single year. And I did it ethically and I did it morally. And to be treated that way and to be looked down and kind of discarded in some ways, I walked away. Because my respect is worth more than $500,000 a year.
It's priceless.
My dignity and my respect for myself is priceless. Because if I don't respect me, who's going to fucking respect me?
Nobody.
And if I let someone disrespect me, then the whole world can disrespect me.
Yep.
And only you can allow yourself to be disrespected. Because you tell yourself these stories, I need the job, I need it. No, you don't fucking need nothing. If you don't have your dignity, if you don't have your confidence, if you don't have your pride in yourself, not to be arrogant, but to have dignity, then what good is the money?
It's worth nothing.
Because you sold your faith.
Worth nothing.
You sold your honor. You sold your ethics. I had, I guess I'll tell you one crazy story. Make the story short, I had a very high-level celebrity trying to basically make some moves on me. And everyone said, you should go with her. You should go with her, just, be with her. You'll get everything you ever wanted. I said, I'll get everything I wanted, but I'll lose everything I've been.
Wow.
So, yeah, I'll get all the material stuff. I'll get maybe recognition, publicity, a lot shorter trip to the top, but I lose me. I sold out, as they say, and I couldn't do it, man. I couldn't do it. And you know how they say, sleep your way to the top, and all. I just couldn't do it, man. I said, I am someone who tells people every day to be true to themselves. And if I turn around right now and sell out, then I'm nothing. I'm lower than the lowest, and I refuse to sell out. So, and these things present themselves, man.
Yeah.
I mean, this is like we're talking about like a really big celebrity. I'm not going to mention the name, and it doesn't matter. What matters is that, I got to really, for me, it felt like it was a test from God. Like, here, you want a shortcut? What are you going to do? You going to take the shortcut, or do you believe in yourself? I believe in me, man. I believe in you, God. I got this far without them. And you know what? This year I went viral, brother. I have over 1 billion views, man. I had Tyrese Gibson post me, Fast and Furious, not even a week ago. He has 20 million followers.
That's awesome.
Right on his wall. Posted by Bella Hadid and this one and that. I mean, over 1 billion views. I'm getting stopped in the streets everywhere I go. So I know I made the right choice because I believe in me and I believe in what I'm doing and I have a good intention. I don't have a bad intention. My intention is if I get to where I'm going, I know what I'm going to do, and I know who I'm going to help, and I know I'm going to fight for what's right till the day I die. Because I'm going to die anyway. I'd rather die defending what's right. Dignity, honor, family, country, ethics, morals. Because we live in a very weird time. Very weird time.
Yeah, and morals are everything, man. Definitely. So, second of third question. What's next for you?
Today, actually, we're launching the Bek Lover podcast. My first show was the Comeback Team, and I'm probably going to do that seasonally, but the demand has been so high that we're just going to, it's got to be, I got to be able to do content every day, man. So I'm doing that. I'm working on a book called Sell or Die. I'm going to release courses to teach people how to sell. Your uncle's the greatest. You can ask him, man. I took a team from Marriott that had no idea what the fuck they were doing. They couldn't close a door, let alone a deal. And with the help of some of my co-managers, I mean, we turned this into an award-winning team, man.
It's awesome.
So I know how to train people that don't know how to sell or have never sold before. It's already proven. I've already done it. And I want to help people develop that skill set because I know it changes lives, not only financially, but in every capacity. It helps people have more confidence. And when you have more confidence, you take more risks. And the more risks you take, the more interesting your life will be.
100%.
I'm going to release the courses. I have a documentary coming out, which should have been done a year ago, but it was a rough year this year. We all have problems in life.
Right.
People look at Instagram and social media, think everything's amazing, and that's not always the case, man. I post because it's a part of what has to be done for what I'm working on. But it doesn't mean just because I post something that looks cool that I'm having a great day that day. It doesn't mean that I don't have a prom or one of my kids drove me crazy or I'm getting divorced or whatever the case may be.
Right.
Problems exist in life. But you can either dwell on them or continue to work. I have gotten to a point, and may God protect me, but no matter what happens, I'm not stopping. I came this far. I lost a lot to get here. And I'm going to go all the way or I'm going to die trying.
That's where I'm at in my life right now. Something that was really challenging to me that I overcame, and I couldn't believe how I felt when I came out the other side was prison. When I got out from prison and I realized that this is the worst and most traumatic thing most men can go through, and I came out the other side with a renewed confidence. Not long, a few months, about 5 months, but it was just something.
A little appetizer.
Huh?
You had a little appetizer.
Yeah. But it was just...
You got to get a little taste.
It was something that, if you ask anybody that knows me, nobody would have ever thought I would have ended up in prison. But anyway, it's something that I thought was going to destroy my life. And I came out the other side with so much wisdom. I met a lot of people in there that taught me a lot of good things, not bad things.
It's like my friend Khan Body. He was a drug dealer on the Lower East Side of Manhattan. He went to jail. He worked out in jail. He developed something called the Khan Body, meaning like Khan's body. He's doing really well for himself, came out, so horrible things can happen to us. We can either let him destroy us or take that pain and use it for something positive. Or what one of the greatest scholars I've ever heard said it perfectly. Hamza Yusuf is one of the imams that buried Muhammad Ali. I heard him once say, and it was so powerful to this day, it just really resonated with me. Through despair comes enlightenment. When you were sitting in that jail, you were in despair, brother. You were like, how the fuck did I get here?
Yeah.
How dumb was I? Right or wrong? Let's be real.
110%, yeah.
What was I thinking? What can I do to fix this when I get out? I'm lucky, probably. You're probably sure you said I only got a few months. I'm lucky.
Yep.
I don't know if you were facing more time than that, but you got a few months. And instead of letting it become a career, because a lot of people make that mistake, they go to jail and they just stay in that world.
Yep.
Until they die or go to jail forever. You decided, no, I'm going to take this fork in the road. Through this despair, I have become enlightened on what's really important in life. And I don't want to lose my freedom ever again. Because to lose a single day in jail, man, a week, a month, years is a fucking tragedy.
It really is.
And in many ways, it's worse than death. Why? Because you can never get that time back and you're still alive.
100%.
And to understand the concept of time, I think, is one of the biggest mistakes people make. They don't understand how precious time is when they're young. They waste their health when they have it. They waste their youth on idle play when they could be making their life or someone else's life better. So time is the currency. All money is time that you gave up, converted into paper. That's why it's so precious.
Right.
You have to go somewhere or do something or do things you don't want to do or be that smart and cunning, but you still have to give up a lot of time to do it. And then you storing basically blocks of time. You gave your life for that piece of paper that you can never get back. And that's why you can take that piece of paper and go buy something else with it.
Yep.
Because you gave up your time to get it. And that's why, you know, and I'm guilty of it. You should respect money a little bit more. But that's all money is time converted into paper.
Yep.
Is what it is.
Definitely. And so, Bek, last question. How do you want to be remembered?
First of all, most of us won't be remembered. And that's the reality of this world.
That's the sad truth.
Very few of us will be remembered. Even some of the most popular people that I met in nightlife, very few mention their names anymore. And I think that's a reality. I think the most important thing for me is that my boys, I have 3 boys, that they remember that their father wanted to be a positive force in life, not only in their life, but in the lives of others, to inspire them to never give up, no matter how bad life can get. And it can get really bad, man. Whether we made mistakes or we get dealt those cards from the one above. Because a lot of times some things that happen to us, we have no control over. I lost a friend a few days ago, 41 years old. He just dropped dead in Florida. He was driving chauffeur for a doctor, believe it or not. Doctor couldn't save him. He had a heart attack and he died. And you don't know when you're going to die. So for me, it's letting people save their own lives. And what I mean by that is, like, if you're not happy, you need to find a way to be happy. Even in the most dire circumstances, there's people that have been through tragedy. I've met people that have lost everything, everyone they loved. Their kids died. I mean, crazy shit. And Holocaust survivors are some of the greatest examples of this.
Right.
And they got back up and rebuilt their lives. So to try to inspire people, if I do get remembered for my work, all I hope is as a positive force in this world. Someone that tried to inspire other people to not be assholes and to not be cowards, first for their own life and for those that they love, to go out there and take risks and try to do something, because you're going to die anyway. And that's really my message, man, is that life is short. You don't have to be unethical. You don't have to be a criminal. You can make amazing things happen if you start to work towards them. And you'd be amazed. When I started my show, I had no idea what I was doing. And I feel amazing, man. And so much awesome things have happened that even if nothing else came out of it, just what I've experienced in the last 3 years has been priceless. And I'm grateful for it. And I had no idea what I was doing at all. So just to inspire people to have courage and to have honor. That's how I want to be remembered.
It's amazing. Bek, thank you so much for being on my show. I appreciate you taking time out of your day. Last thing before we go, how can people connect with you?
You can check out at BEK, that's B like boy, E like Edward, K like Kimberly, Bek Lover NYC is my Instagram. Or they can go to beklover.com, beklover.com. The new podcast is launching today, actually. And all of our content links are on there. And we have a lot coming down the pipeline. Probably see you again. So until then, say good night to the bad guy, huh? You're never going to see a bad guy like this again, let me tell you.
All right.
Make way for the bad guy. There's a bad guy coming through.
All righty, guys. So that was another episode of Montana Method Podcast. As always, push it to the limit. The world is yours. And if you are not chasing a dream, life is meaningless, guys. Till the next one.
I've been out here hustling all my life. Every day we get into it. Really out here in these streets. That's day and night. Like there's nothing to it. When I was going through it, dog, I never got your call. I never asked for nothing, no. But now I want it all. I promise I'ma do it. Came from rags to riches. Rags to riches. Came from rags to riches. Rags to riches. Came from rags.